Welcome everyone to this webinar on building women's leadership in the water sector of Pakistan. A number of partners have brought this to you. Hisaar Foundation has brought this webinar to you in association with Global Water Partnership South Asia, Women for Water Partnership, and South Asia Rainwater Network. As everyone knows, that the World Water Forum, the 10th World Water Forum, is scheduled to take place in Bali in May. So Women for Water Partnership has commenced on a consultative process prior to this through its program Signpost to Bali, which is basically a series of consultations, both online and on-site. And they do this in collaboration with Asian partners with inputs from global partners to ensure that the voice of women, youth, and indigenous groups are included at the World Water Forum in Bali. So this webinar on building women's leadership in the water sector of Pakistan is also a part of this series of Signpost to Bali event. Just a little brief on the 4 partners that are bringing this webinar to you. Women for Water Partnership promotes women and youth. It works together for water security and climate change. Then we have the South Asia Rainwater Network, which started its operations in 2020 with support from USAID and guidance from the Lanka Rainwater Harvesting Forum. This network aims to serve as a repository of information on rainwater harvesting and to facilitate the exchange of knowledge and best practices on rainwater harvesting. And we have the Global Water Partnership South Asia, that's a constituent of the GWP network, with the vision to have a water-secure South Asia and a mission to promote water security and climate resilience in South Asia as a key part of sustainable regional and national development for economic growth and human security, keeping integrated water resources management principles intact. And finally, of course, Hisaar Foundation. It's a foundation for water, food, and livelihood security. We are a not-for-profit voluntary citizens body under Section 42 of the Companies Act of 2017. Hisaar Foundation completed 20 years in 2023 and is led by a visionary and dedicated board of governors that hail from many disciplines and diverse professional backgrounds. Hisaar Foundation is widely recognized as a thought leader and innovator in the water sector of Pakistan. And we have built partnerships, provide emergency support when needed, and we have a sustained program of solutions to intractable water problems in Pakistan and the world. Hisaar Foundation's vision is to balance environment with development, and our mission is to promote appropriate policies and creative low-cost solutions for water resources development and conservation in Pakistan, and for addressing the broader climate change issue. We believe that water is everyone's business and it's everyone's responsibility to play. To talk about building women's leadership in the water sector of Pakistan. And with that, I would like to introduce Kusum Atukurola, who is going to be giving us the opening remarks. So Ms. Kusum Atukurola currently serves as the chairperson of Global Water Partnership South Asia, crossing disciplinary and academic boundaries from 12 years previous experience as a university teacher in languages and cultural studies to development studies, primary resources management. Ms. Atukurola holds a Master's of Science in Managing Rural Change from Imperial College, University of London. Kusum, over to you.
Thank you, Sana. Am I audible here?
Yes, you're audible, and we've reached the 30 mark.
Oh, thank you. That's our starting off point. Thank you, ladies. And if there are any gentlemen, I don't see them, which is a pity. We are only 52%. You know, there is the other 48% there, which needs to be accessed, which needs to be reached out to on this particular activity. I think all of you know about the World Water Forum. The World Water Forum is held every 3 years, and it rotates from region to region, Asia, continent to continent. This year, it is very important for us that it comes to Asia. Really, it's very close, the closest to South Asia it has ever been. And we feel that as the Women for Water Partnership, we would have to play a special role in mobilizing women and youth especially. And I'll tell you why we need to do that later. But let me tell you a little bit about the Women for Water Partnership. It is quite a unique partnership of women and or women's organizations. I'm very glad that our founding chair is here with us, Alice Baumann-Dettener. And I believe that, what we need to do is to work with women's organizations, mobilizing them, working with them in advocacy, especially leading to the World Water Forum. People ask me, why do you need to talk about the World Water Forum? What really comes out of the World Water Forum? The World Water Forum can be a very important staging post, a springboard for activities to mobilize women, youth, communities, and even politicians into doing what is extremely important for us, water security for South Asia. If you look at Sri Lanka right now, we are having a heat wave that we have never experienced in our life. If you go to Bengaluru, the lakes are drying up. Even if you go to UK, they say that the spring has come 1 month in advance. Something is changing, and we unfortunately, the women and the children are the ones who are going to suffer most from these activities. All of us are suffering for things that we haven't done, but anyway, we have to sort of we are bearing the brunt of it. Why is it that we have women water professionals coming together? Especially in South Asia, women professionals are the conduit to the communities, because many of us come from organizations, institutions in countries where there is a very conservative, let me put it that way, very conservative communities. It is very difficult for people to access community women unless you go as a woman, as a trained woman, not just a woman, but a trained woman who can then give the information, give the advocacy, give the capacity building, which many women need. We are 52% in Asia, I believe in South Asia as well. But why is it that all the decision making is happening without consulting this 52%? Let me be a little rude and say, there is this thing that Albert Einstein said, the difference between stupidity and genius is that genius has limits. Stupidity does not. Now, if we are going to think of development, if we are going to think of climate resilience building, if we are going to think of the supporting communities to bear the brunt of climate change, it doesn't take a genius to say we have to get everybody involved. Unfortunately, this is one thing that we are trying to do, especially to Bali. We all know we can't go to Bali, all of us. We all know that it is impossible, it is expensive, and Bali, I must say, has become even more expensive than the earlier the fora. And that is something that we are trying to bridge by this program called Signpost to Bali. Signpost to Bali takes up issues in places, in communities, in countries where the furthest we have been is, I think, Malaysia. Pakistan is at the other end. In between, we have had a lot of programs. This is, I think, about the 15th program that we are doing, bringing the issues which will never be taken up to Bali unless we take them up here and present them. Again, all of us can't go, but our ideas, our thinking, our aspirations, the communities that we work with, they should be represented in Bali. And that is what Signpost to Bali is. We have about another 6 webinars coming up this month, and also 2 more on-site activities. So I believe that what we need to do here is take up the issues with a very strong voice and take them to Bali through other mechanisms that we have. And I want to finish off by telling this one message, especially because we are going to be in Pakistan. We are talking with the Pakistan Water Forum. One message which resonates very much, which I'm thankful to my friend, Professor Najim. He quotes from the Holy Quran. He says, "Do not waste water, even if you were at a flowing river." And this is, I think, something very important. We, especially in South Asia, we have a lot of religious faith-based groups. Can we ask them to mobilize for saving water and bringing water security to our own people? Thank you very much. Over to you, Sana.
Thank you, Kusum. And just wanted to add that, we are doing this event from Pakistan in March, which is also the month of International Women's Day. And on 22nd March, we commemorate World Water Day. So the link between, women and water and water and climate is so critical. And I'm sure that our esteemed speakers later on will shed light on this as well. And with that, I would like to invite Ms. Simi Kamal, who is the current chairperson and the CEO of Hisaar Foundation, to give her keynote speech. 1 second, I'll just. So, Simi, I will just introduce you, and then you can take it from there. Okay, so Simi Kamal is a geographer, water expert, climate change and environment professional. She's a women's rights campaigner and poverty alleviation specialist. She has founded several private sector and social sector organizations, networks, and platforms. She has served on numerous international and national boards, committees, and think tanks. She is the founder of Hisaar Foundation and the co-founder of Panjwani Hisaar Water Institute and Every Women Treaty. Currently, she is the chair of the International Water Management Institute. She's a board director of Khoshali Microfinance Bank, and she's on the board of trustees of WaterAid UK and CABI UK. She's also a member of Women Action Forum and Tehreek-e-Niswan and an associate of Aurat Foundation. And she has led over 200 research studies and projects and is the recipient of several awards. Simi, please, can you take the stage?
Thank you very much, Sana. And thank you, Kusum, for helping us organize this. So, in South Asia, in Pakistan, I should say, as in South Asia, the water sector's sensibilities about women's leadership and involvement are archaic and continue to be so. They seem to be living in the Stone Ages. So fetching, carrying, managing domestic water, community-based sanitation work, water-related hygiene, cleaning bathrooms continues to be seen as the women's domain, while national discussions, debates, decisions, infrastructure, and initiatives on water are all seen as the men's domain. Unfortunately, it is still true in very large parts of our South Asia. Women largely invisible in the water institutions of the country. You don't see them in water-related ministries and departments. You see them somewhat more in water NGOs but you don't see them in water businesses. You barely see them in water utility organizations. So they are seen mostly as affectees of the water crisis and climate change crisis, and therefore are bracketed as part of the problem, not as part of the solution. And this has become so ingrained that we all have a massive battle on our hands to get out of this mindset. This is in spite of the fact that Pakistan has produced wonderful leaders. Who can forget Benazir Bhutto? We've had women speakers. We have had a Pakistani woman, Nafis Sadik, heading UNFPA for a very long time in the UN. We have many high achievers, and yet the gender perception remains very much the same. So, unlike what Kusum said about the 52% of the population of South Asia, in Pakistan, women account only for 48.76% of the population, and there are reasons why that is so, which includes son preference and the way that the balance becomes visible at the stage of the first year of life. You already see these differences. Yet they are referred to only once in the government of Pakistan's water policy of 2018. And that too in the context of stakeholder participation, in a section which says that women population will be promoted in domestic water supply and water hygiene. This is in a highest level policy on water. So this absence of women from Pakistan's guiding policy document on water reflects the prevalent attitudes of a patriarchal society in general and the very masculine water institutions in particular. So we have this big organization called Water and Power Development Authority, which kind of overshadows the work of the Ministry of Water. And any idea we send is kind of shot down because all the men sitting there, including the guy who heads it, who's ex-army general, they do not believe that women could have any expertise or any learning in water, or that they should be listened to, because they believe that all the solutions they are going to come by are heavy engineering solutions on which there would be kickbacks. And so they're not willing to look at ideas when we say build 1,000,000 ponds, or we say build community-based systems, or we say let's repair what we have, let's not destroy and rebuild. They're not interested in those voices. So that puts us in a very difficult situation. So by several estimates, women provide at least half the agriculture workforce in Pakistan, even if they are not remunerated or accurately counted. And women in Pakistan are not only careful users of water and natural conservers of water, they are also the custodians of water knowledge and practice. They carry the heavy burden of walking several kilometers a day, yes, in many parts of rural Pakistan to fetch water for household and livestock and drinking. And they continue to face many gender-based discriminatory practices, even in this simple action, which often determines their access to and participation in water-related narratives when it comes to claiming entitlements to water. So if you go back in history, you look at our poetry, look at our art, and look at our music, you'll see depictions of women carrying water in very sexy poses. Once in a conference, I filled up these water vessels with water, and I invited the gentlemen to lift them and carry them on their head or their shoulders or on their sides. And believe me, not a single one could do it. Okay? So Pakistani law at the moment does not directly address water rights, and land ownership is usually a proxy for access or entitlement to water. So if you own land in the city, the municipality will give you water up to the edge of your property, and then you can develop it. If you own rural land, you will be the recipient of irrigation water and of other benefits. So if you're a landless farmer or you're a squatter settlement resident, then the rights are very ill-defined and it's very hard to get support to them. So while women's role as domestic water managers is extolled, and the hazards they face in the context of fetching and storing this water is just about acknowledged, women have been quietly becoming water visionaries, academics, scientists, and researchers. In Pakistan, we look around and we can see them. When some years ago, some discussion started on water policy in my province, a young man sitting there sent me a picture and said, look, there are no women here. And that was the starting point of a massive campaign in Hisaar Foundation, where we are bringing out these women champions. We looked for them and we found so many. And we told these guys, here they are. Get them in, let them help you. But they're not interested. At the most, they say, oh, can they come and do some drafting? Okay. Can they do some writing? That's about how far that vision goes. But in spite of that, women have been breaking the glass ceiling. And some of them are here that you will meet. And there are many, many more, especially young women. And I'm really, really proud of them. Proud of them when they march on the streets for women's rights, and proud of them when they talk about water and are no longer afraid to do so. The doors of decision-making bodies, however, in both water and in related areas like climate change and environment, the premier water institutions of the country remain largely closed to them, including the Planning Commission. Those that have broken these barriers and faced the challenges that discourage them and prevent their upward movement have had a tough time. Okay, even some of us here, we are now in our 60s. We've been at it for 40 years. Even now, we feel those problems. I know Amber will agree with me that that is still the case. So Pakistan needs a plan to systematically bring in young women into the water sector, because we believe that once they get there, they are going to make a change, because we have seen this century women think differently. The way COVID was managed, for example, in those countries that were led by women, we can see the differences. In Pakistan, we have seen much better induction of women in the IT sector and in entrepreneurship development. Those are examples, and we can learn from them so that we can work about inducting more women into this sector. So I have a few more minutes, Sana. Okay. So I believe that before we can go into precise actions, we really need to change the whole narrative about water in Pakistan. And I believe that once we do that, we can think about different outcomes. If we don't change that narrative, we will keep getting more of the same. So I would like to impress upon all of you that water in Pakistan uh, is Pakistan's lifeline and has had a profound influence on the civilizational development in the region, right from the time of Mohenjo-daro and the Indus Valley civilizations. And it's all in our psyches, and that has to be understood. The river Indus, also known as the river Sindhu, we say is our mata. Mata means mother. We don't say it's our father, we say it's our mother. Okay? It affects the psyche of people living in Pakistan to mythic proportions. So a huge part of the glaciers of the third pole that lies in Pakistan, they are held almost with reverence by people who live on the roof of the world. These are married off. They are given names. They have children. You know, this is how important they are in the lives of people who live there. And this new century has brought many new challenges, of course, including the direct impact of climate change on water and the unexpected and intense changes in the water regimes, water cycle, the shifting of seasons, distortion of natural regions, loss of ecosystems. Yet, here in my country, these crucial conversations are swept aside in the obsession with irrigation based agriculture and more infrastructure development. Even in the cities, all we do is call for more and more infrastructure. We don't really talk about conservation, about reuse, about circular economy. So, in this scenario, what are some of the things that we have to do in order to move the women's agenda forward, both inside and outside the water sector? So certainly we must understand all of this in the context of what we in Hisaar Foundation call Pakistan's water economy and Pakistan's water value chain. And this is within a huge pattern of inequalities. And those inequalities are understood. Kusum was talking about them, the marginalized groups, the indigenous people, people who live outside the irrigation zone, people who live in desert areas, poor people, and women are the most unequal in this whole envisioning of how we manage water. So we have to move towards a transformative framework, and that transformative framework has to be in the water sector to allow women to blossom. And we must begin with building pride in Pakistan's hydrology, its geography, its natural regions, its cultures, its multiple cultures, its old history. And then we need to also be very clear on maintaining the integrity of the Indus Basin, on which a very huge part of Pakistan relies for agriculture and for food security. Then understanding and regulating groundwater use. Women use groundwater very extensively in large parts of Pakistan for household-based food security and for watering animals. And when you get commercial farming and people come and they remove all the water from the aquifer, okay, within months or within a few years, that directly affects food security and the home economy that women manage. Then we need to recognize that rain-fed areas, the watersheds, deserts, and coastal areas outside the irrigated areas are equally important. and we need to put attention there. And that is where women's wisdom can be most utilized. And in order to build a national investment base for water, to do zoning and improving water and crop productivity, these are the areas where we can really enhance women's empowerment. So I'll stop there, and I hope to listen to others.
Thank you, Simi. It's very inspiring, and there's always food for thought when you speak. And you mentioned the incident on the Sindh water policy. So with that, I'd like to invite Afia Salam, who's our partner in crime or cause, to take it over from me and lead the panel discussion. So Afia Salam has a master's in geography and she's a career journalist, having 4 decades of experience in print, electronic, and web journalism. She is a lead FNF, International Academy of Leadership in Australia Awards Fellow, and a member of the IUCN Commission on Education and Communications and the Commission on Economic and Social Policy. She's also a member of the National Coordinating Body for Marine Protected Areas and the Prime Minister's Advisory Body, the National Climate Change Council. She's been highlighting issues related to the environment and climate change through her writings and advocacy, through seminars and moderation of panel discussions and roundtables. And as a development practitioner, she's associated in a voluntary capacity with Indus Earth Trust and Bar Bailey as the elected president of the Executive Committee and Board of Trustees. So, Afia?
Thank you very much. And my apologies and a bit of a disclaimer. I've got a terrible flu. I don't know what I sound like right now. I sound very bad to myself. But this is a very, very important discussion, and I'm honored that I've been asked to, to be a part of it. And it's interesting that, where before introducing me, the point at which Tana introduced me was when Simi had mentioned about that conspiracy that we cooked up to claim our space in the water dialogues. Because years earlier, and if you'll permit me these 2 minutes, I'll just tell you this how it started was this years. I am basically a journalist, and I had written an article for about women on the water table. And when I started writing and calling for more inclusion of women in the water dialogues, and I started giving names, and the list grew and grew. And I started putting thumbnails under those names. And when I sent the article to the editor, she said, I'd asked you for an article, not a directory. I said, well, will you please publish it? And that list was pretty substantial. I think I had about 30 to 40 names covering all sectors of water across the country. And this is when the dialogue that CV mentioned, this was in the province where CV and I and Sana and my co-panelists, sorry, my apologies, belong to. And the Sindh water policy did not have a single woman. And it was a room full of men talking about something with which there is a clear nexus of women. This has been established beyond doubt, that women have everything to do with water, whether they are they are the water managers, they have to fetch it, they have to manage it, they have to distribute it. And somehow they were never there at the policy table or at the top tier. And this was not something that was acceptable. I think this happened in 2021. Anyway, we started. So Hisaar Foundation picked up the theme of naming names of women who had been working in the water sector. And from within that article, they took some names which belong to this particular province. And then they added, because it had been quite some time before when it was published, and they added so many more names. And I was so proud to see that list taking a life of its own. And this is something that we need all our women everywhere, not just in Pakistan. Because when we keep complaining that, we are not given a seat at the table, well, if you're not given it, then we need to wrest it for ourselves. And that's the only way to make our voice heard, until it becomes normal to see women in the room, sitting at the same table as men, making decisions about water, whether it is infrastructure, the yes and no of it, We've got women engineers, we've got scientists, we've got chemical scientists of water. So the quality issue is also something that the women are very, very closely tied to. We need to look beyond, the SDG 6 and see that the intersectionality brings in a lot more women who are connected to the subject of water. So this is, I went on at a tangent over here. I have not even introduced my, sorry, panelists.
Afia, I can do that for you.
Can you please do
and
that?
while I do the introductions, I'd request IT to start putting up the panel lists as well on the screen.
Yeah.
So the first of our panelists is Ms. Amber Ali Bhai, who serves as the General Secretary of Shehri, Citizens for a Better Environment, which is a non-profit organization established in 1988. She has a dedicated commitment spanning 28 years, and she has actively contributed to Shehri CBE mission. The organization aims to transparently and participatorily manage and develop Pakistan's environment with a particular focus on the built environment. The overarching goal is to prioritize citizen interest. And Ms. Amber Ali Bhai's long-standing engagement underscores her dedication to promoting sustainable and citizen-centric environmental practices in Pakistan. Ms. Amber Ali Bhai, welcome to this webinar, and I look forward to really learning so much from your lived experience as a practitioner in this sector. Next, I'd like to invite Ms. Mumtaz Mughal, who's the resident director at Aurat Foundation. She has over 18 years of experience as a women's rights activist and development practitioner with several national and international organizations. Ms. Mumtaz Mughal plays an active role in women's empowerment and human rights, especially focused on ending violence against women, women's economic empowerment, women's political participation, gender justice, devolution, governance, and democracy. And she has strong coordination and linkages with the Provincial Assembly and works with them by providing policy input to legislators and policymakers for women-friendly legislation. Can we please have Mumtaz Mughal also on the screen?
Yeah, I think we need the panelists to be spotlighted.
Yes. Can we please pin Mumtaz Mughal also?
She's waving.
Okay. And while that's happening, I'd like to introduce Ms. Faria O'Kelly, our third panelist for this webinar. Ms. Faria O'Kelly is an accomplished environmental specialist. She's spearheading pivotal roles in World Bank funded projects with an extensive background in monitoring and evaluation. She has excelled as a social and gender focal person across multiple roles, showcasing her commitment to social and gender inclusivity in projects. Her unwavering passion for climate change advocacy has led her to serve as a master trainer on climate change, sustainable development goals, water policy, social development, and gender mainstreaming initiatives in various professional capacities. She completed a Bachelor's of Engineering in Environmental Engineering Technology from Mehran University of Engineering and Technology, and a Master of Engineering in Water and Environmental Management from University of Bristol. Faria also was at Hisaar Foundation for a brief period as the program manager. So Faria, can we have you also spotlighted? Not me, who's pinned me? I don't need to be pinned. Where's Faria?
I know that's
Faria,
what
I can see her. Can we please spotlight Faria? And then we can start with the panel discussion.
I think there's some.
Sorry, technical glitches. Faria, it's FH in the list of participants.
I think Mumtaz's camera is off. Mumtaz, is it because you don't have enough bandwidth? You're okay if that is the reason. Otherwise, we would like to see you.
आफिया बेसिकली यहाँ पे जो है वो सिग्नल का इशू है तो मैंने इसको अपने कैमरे को ऑफ किया
That's all right. That's all right. That people have seen you now at least. So.
Okay, Faria, can you just can you just say hello so that the IT people can pick you up?
Hi, Sana. Hello. I hope I'm
Okay,
audible.
now we should be able to spotlight you. Thanks a lot. Thank you.
Also, I'm sorry I'm having a bandwidth issue as well, so might not be able
Can
to
you
turn
just,
on my mic.
sorry, can you just put your camera on for just a few minutes so we can just, have the whole panel here and then you can put
Yeah,
it off.
sure. Sure,
Both of
Afi.
Thank you.
we still don't have her in the as a
Can we
panel.
please spotlight Faria?
There
Oh,
we go.
great. Thank you.
Perfect.
Thank you.
you.
Thank you very much. And I do understand these bandwidth issues, so it's okay if you want to be, unseen. Your wisdom is enough for us to take forward this conversation. And I'm especially privileged because not only do I have two existing water leaders, women leaders in the panel, but I have a future water leader as well, and somebody who can bring in fresh insights, and that's Faria. So, I will start with you, Amber. As far as Pakistan is concerned, the earlier narrative was that this is an agrarian country and more people live in the rural areas than in the urban areas. And a lot of the water discourse was centered around that thinking. And this is why, all those big infrastructure projects also were to cater to the agricultural sector. But we have seen as a rapid urbanization takes place across South Asia, that those same changes are being experienced in Pakistan, and you live in the city, which really is seen as one of the cities that has the highest growth of urbanization growth rate. So how do we shift that balance in the conversation? Because more and more people are moving to the city for various reasons. And I think the reasons are not in them all that good a life, because we have not been able to be able to absorb those people within the city to give them a good life. And it just shows that how the inequities across our rural areas are, that they still prefer to come here. But they don't obviously bring the water allocated, if you count it as a per capita, to the city. And how do you see a city like Karachi managing? Because Karachi's model can be seen in bigger cities of South Asia like Mumbai and in Southeast Asia as well. So how do we resolve this issue of more people coming and yet the infrastructure not being able to cope with it?
Thank you very much. I'm very privileged for Hisaar Foundation for inviting me as a panelist. Simi, Afia, Sana, who has been very good in keeping track that I'm here. Afia, I'm very grateful to you, and I just want to say that I learned so much of living in Pakistan and loving the rivers, but it was through your eyes and your fabulous trip down the Indus that I saw it.
Thank you.
And Simi, I've admired her greatly, that she is a one-woman army in the water board. And she goes around with all those men who really don't want her around. Sherry has been on the platform, and I have been volunteering at Sherry for the past 30 years. And as a citizen of the city and of this country, I have, I'm sorry to say, but the depletion of the rivers, the depletion of the water has been tremendous. And it seems that all of us, men and women, young and old, are going through this entire process of depletion, erosion, without really thinking, with our eyes closed. When you mentioned just now, the question to me is that how do people who are coming into Karachi, how are they going to cope with the shortfall of water? I think before we talk about the people who come to Karachi to work, I think we need to talk about the migration within the city taking place of people moving from areas, the old areas of Karachi, and moving into areas where there is no piped water in the system. And for all of us, we do know that this fast galloping authority called the Defense Housing Authority, Clifton, the new DHA city coming up, Beharia town, which is on the outskirts of the city. And if we talk, I mean, these are least developed, notified areas. We'll talk about them first. They should get water, they have no water. And yet every day, the price of land in these areas is so high, but they have no running water. They have no proper sewage system. They don't even have gas. Yet people continue to build large homes. Every bedroom has a bathroom. Every 500 and 1,000 square yard plot has minimum 5.5 bathrooms. And they are going ahead with this construction. But there is no idea where their water will come from, because they know they have the money, and the tanker mafia, I don't even call it a mafia, it's a proper business now, they will provide water. Then we come to the unleased areas. They have no water. And like Simi says, is the women and children, they will be standing out in specific spaces or areas where there is a communal tap, a hand pump, or they will be constrained to buy water, which is also unfit for any usage. And they will buy water from those mashkis, from people selling water on small Suzukis to the people for those unleased areas, which we call Kachi Abadis. Leased and unleased areas, we have a lot of people living in them. When Shehri, about nearly 15, 20 years ago, we were very much involved in this process of water issues, because our work is basically land. We look into a lot of land issues, urban issues, dealing with land. We examined the document. We examined the agreement between the water tanker and the water board. And we found out, and it still is a very flawed document, which allows the tanker person to take water and to sell it 5 miles outside his radius. And that is why, when we've raised this issue, nobody has taken it up. There is no authority willing to take it up. I'm sorry to say, even the women are basically householders, and they are buying the water. A lot of friends, a lot of relatives, I ask them that, do you know where your water is coming from? It is being stolen from the area, and only because you are willing to pay more money for it. And those people whose water it is, and have access free of it, they need to get the water free. They are not getting it because you people are buying it. And nobody has a conscience, whether they're men, whether they're women, they're householders. I mean, it's all very good. We say that, that the men are only in the corridors of decision making, legislation, but the end user, where water is being stolen through the tankers, is also women. And there is nobody wants this conversation. Nobody wants this conversation.
Can I jump to Mumtaz now? Because you have been looking at this issue from a, from a development or an urban development.
Yes.
But when Mumtaz puts on the lens, because she belongs to Aurat Foundation, which for the benefit of all the others, Aurat means a woman. So there's an organization that has dedicated its existence of so many decades to looking out for the welfare of women, for the rights of women. And Mumtaz, when you look at these issues, do you feel that women should take a different stance, because the end user may be that woman right now in the manner that Amber has said, but she's the person who's seen as the person who's supposed to provide water to everybody in the household. She has to make sure there's water for everybody. So what are her choices, and what are the implications if the woman takes a different stance, if he starts to become a little bit confrontational?
Thank you very much, Afia, or thank you very much, Sana, and special thanks to Simi. She always give the space to women leaders and the young women leaders, and give opportunity to, and also we are thankful to Simi. She gave us the opportunity to meet wonderful experts, and also happy Women Day to all ladies on with regards to 8 March. Yes, Afia, you are basically we are also we are all of us know and believe that the affectee is the most affectee with the water because of water climate change water issues. Most the person affect at home level is the woman. So from last 4 decades, women empowerment activists, feminists, women rights advocates, they are struggling to turn the attention of the stakeholders, policymakers, duty bearers, and about these climate issues and challenges, which are include the water challenges, the loss of biodiversity, and also degrading the environment. So we in Pakistan with the Hisaar Foundation and Aurat Foundation, we established the Women Water Networks to create awareness at both level, at community level, at household level, as educational institution level, as well as the policy maker level. Because we believe that women, girls, and youth can respond better, more efficiently to water and climate changes. So, keeping in view the situation, we formed the Women Water Network at the provincial level as well as the national level. And in this Women Water Networks, we engage the women rights activists, academia, household women, individual researchers, media persons, as well as the members of the political parties. Because we believe when we will raise we will advocate the political parties, they can, the parliamentarians, they can, the way to reach out to raise the voices, and they can plan and make a policies at provincial levels. So as a Women Water Network, we established in Pakistan, we have these Women Water Network. They are doing some wonderful work, like they develop the IC material on safe water prevention among communities, as you mentioned, because the women are the more user of the water, and they can play role to preserve the water. So we are running the community awareness sessions at local level, and as well as we are also these women water member of the Women Water Network. They wrote the articles at local level. They also run the educational campaign at school level, at university level, at colleges level, about how water is important, how we can save the water, and how we can use the safe safe water, or what is the importance of the water in our lives. Because as the as well as we also run the at university level. We also hold the press conferences as a member of Women Water Network, and we give the attention to the policymakers. Please make the policies, provincial policies, about the water issues, and to address the challenges of climate. Because as you know, the flood in 2020 flood, 33 million people lost their affected from these natural disasters, and more than 1,700 women lost their lives, and 4.4 million acre agricultural land we the affected, and we also looming food security crisis, and 27,000 school living to they affected, and around 2 million children they are not able to go to education.
Yeah,
so
that's right.
I think we need, as a Women Water Network, we need to work on 3 levels. We need to plan the short-term actions. We plan the medium-term actions, we plan the long-term actions. The short-term actions will help to remove barriers and facilitating advancement of the women, and medium-term actions, as Simi discussed, they will redirect the existing climate change platforms, and the long-term actions will be develop the enabling environment in Pakistan with regards to climate and water issues. So,
Thank you.
I think the last thing I want to say, we should need to strengthen these women water network, and because these networks are working voluntarily, and they are raising the voices about we need the water policies at provincial level, national level. So there is no data, disaggregated data. These women water the member of these women water network, they are doing some initiative. They move the resolutions in the assemblies. So when they move the resolutions, they said this is the important, but we need to work on this because there is no data available in how many women affected, how the families population affected, such like things they are doing. And lastly, as Simi discussed, we need the focus on local governments, because the local government institutions, they can play the key role to address the climate emergencies, immediate response and relief. And there is need to facilitate Pakistani organizations and networks to nexus of climate change and women as well as.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mumtaz, because this is very important to realize that I think from this forum, we can also ask to share their experiences, whether the similar problems are there in their countries, like the absence of desegregated data. And the absence of this data is exactly what is the reason why these things, the urgency of focusing on things that are impacting women, do not really impress upon the people sitting at the policy tables or making decisions about these sectors. And there's no concept of affirmative action. And I would also like to just mention here that in her role as a water manager, in any household, the women, especially we have seen research reports showing that women are more prone to violence, domestic violence, because if they are not able to provide the water to the males of the family, for whatever reason, maybe the children have wasted it, or there wasn't enough, or she was busy in other chores and was not able to go, so do so many rounds of fetching water, and it's not enough when the man comes home, she becomes prone to being a victim of domestic violence. So these are very different kind of impacts on women, which need to be mentioned separately. And I'm glad that we have a dedicated organization in Pakistan like our foundation, which has been working on these issues. And now I would like to take the conversation to Faria.
Thank you, Afia. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Afia. I think we should work on the short-term and medium-term and long-term plans for the as a group to address these issues. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mumtaz, for your very insightful comments. And I would like to take the conversation now to Faria, who I think all of us have had the opportunity to work with her when she's been with Hisaar and even otherwise. And in her, we can see the leadership quality that women have within themselves, and then they have sort of not stayed in the shadows of the other men in the water sector, but they've shown that they have a voice, they have an opinion, they have the academic background to be able to make a case in point. And these things are important. So Faria, what has been your experience? And generally, the complaint from the women is that we are not listened to. But then if you put another layer of a young woman, how easy is it, or how difficult is it for a young woman to be able to get her point across? Have you faced any difficulties, or you think that, you're past that hurdle?
First of all, thank you so much, Hisaar Foundation, for having me here. Thank you, Simi, and I always give credits to Simi, because when I came back from my master's, Simi was the first person that has interviewed me and hired me. And it has been my pleasure working with Hisaar Foundation, Afia, Sana, and honestly speaking, there are a lot of challenges for a young person when they come into the field. It is very difficult for them, for their voices to be heard. And then you have to be technically really strong to make up your point and to be really confident in order to be part of the panel. I'll share my experience of Sindh water policy since I'm working with Directorate of Sindh Water Sector and Barrages Improvement, which is also the Secretariat of Sindh Water Policy. So I would just like to correct, there were like 10 to 12 stakeholder consultations where women researchers were also involved. And when I said, let's nominate Simi Kamal as one of the stakeholder, and then everybody was, oh, no, we cannot have Simi because she's the only person who will make a right point, and having her will reduce the bureaucracy of the irrigation department. And I was shocked because and there was this one other person who kept telling them to invite Simi because we wanted a right point on the water policy, on the consultations, but unfortunately, the manuals did not allow us to invite or to have her. So the thing is, there were many consultations and it was very thoroughly done. And when it was sent to irrigation department for the finalization, after 1 week, we received a whole new document. And each of us, we were shocked. We were like, this is not the document that we had worked on. And it was like a 3-year consultative process. And we were like, this is not the document that we have sent to irrigation department. And then we got to know that irrigation department has just come up with a new document based on no stakeholder consultations, because even the document that we have sent was like kind of reducing, was kind of talking about the right things, about aligning SDG 6 with the water policy, with having wastewater treatment systems, having monitoring of groundwater, a lot of other things. So there came this new document, and then we gave comments, and our comments were rejected as always. So finally, the Sindh water policy that was made by the irrigation department was launched in July 2023. And after which we got to know that now we have to come up with the implementation framework, for which we have to do consultations. So our office and we went to the chief engineer of irrigation department, who is also the secretary now. We kind of made these short-term, medium-term, long-term goals for the implementation framework. And surprisingly, or maybe expectedly, it is again lying somewhere on his table, but there is no work done. So my point is, when from the top tier to the bottom tier, everyone engaged in the irrigation sector, if they're not doing anything right, we are having all these issues, starting from IRSA, from our water accord, from the water limitations to Sindh, and how much are we getting, how much is water stolen from TOSA side. There is literally no monitoring that how much are the barrages getting, are we getting enough environmental flows for the coterie. So all those things. And then you see Simi Kamal or you see Hisaar Foundation, just one person trying to do something right, and they are able to achieve at least some goals, like, installing water systems, awareing people. Now they're coming up with this Panjwani Hisaar Water Institute. So I would always say that if there is one person and that one person start doing something right, we'll have some improvement. Now, this can only happen with a lot of awareness, like today's session, that all of us are aware, and then what kind of role we have. So I keep doing that, what is in my part, but let's hope for the best, that we have more people who convey the right messages. Thank you, Afia.
Thank you, Paryash, for sharing the frustrations and the 1 step forward, 2 step back, because that is a reality that the women are faced with, not just in the water sector. And this has been throughout history, wherever women have had to make inroads or to show that they have a say and they have an opinion and they can be right. They've actually had to work twice as hard to be able to, come considered at par with men. So this is a fight that's not over. That's not, we haven't sort of conquered it all. It's still a journey we are on. And this is why it's important for networks like the one we are now, a part of, right, in this one webinar, where you see so many women who have been working in similar spaces. And the fact that they're all here and this kind of a networking is exactly what is needed to push the agenda forward for a more just. So it's not as if women want to take over. I don't know why that insecurity is there, in the sector, and it is seen as a competition rather than an offer of collaboration. And I think we need to work on that kind of a communication also, to be able to convince them that you're missing a whole different angle when you do not take the opinion of women. And that maybe it is that missing element which is stopping you from giving a whole solution. And this is something that they need to acknowledge and they need to, take forward. And it's not an easy task. And I think it would be great if we can share some stories of where those successes have been, across the entire network that is gathered over here of the partnerships. Because partnership the word itself has great strength. And if we are looking at the water sector as just SDG 6, we must remember that SDG 6 is also tied to the SDG 17, which calls for networking and collaboration. So I believe that, there's this centrality of the SDG 17, which is linked to each and every goal to allow us to move forward. And how much time do I have? Do we open the floor to questions for our, or do we go for a next round?
I think
Sana?
you can do one more round with the panelists, and then we can do a Q&A.
Yeah, because I would really like to know, maybe in the Q&A, some similar stories will come through and how we can learn how to overcome these. So again, coming to you, my apologies. Amber, you have been battling a long time. It's mostly been a male domain, but there have been females who have been standing up for the city, who've been not only just pointing out to the problems, but pointing out to the solutions. Are very, very unfortunate that two of those leading personalities did not live to tell the tale. It's hardly the forum where we can point our fingers to why they are no longer with us, voices as strident as Parveen Rahman and Samin Mahmood. But it is this kind of understanding of the issues of the city, which is inclusive, because they were not only standing for women, they were standing for solutions to the city problem, whether they were civic and social or whether they were, related to infrastructure, especially water. How do you see incidents where women are pushed back as how do they react? How do other women react? Do they then stay back, or are they able to push through?
Well, as all the ladies will know, that one thing that over centuries men have been very successful is to instill fear. And the fear factor is there that unfortunately Parveen, a dear friend, and I even, because we did this whole write-up, I had this newsletter in which we had documented Parveen's passing away, the way she was. It was the water tanker mafia, which she was documenting. And I think Parveen's greatest strength was documentation. And what I think that we really need to bring forward more is we need to be in the face. All the women's work, all the organizations that have been mentioned that are working in water, I think we need to be in the face of the public And we need to raise awareness that where the water is coming from and what are we, because we're end users as well. How are we using it, and are we getting the water in a fair manner? I think it is very important for the people in Karachi. Are we getting it in a fair manner? When we are taking it by paying money through the tankers or any other way, whether we're doing boring, whether we're cutting into somebody's line, whether we're using suction pumps, are we accessing our water fairly, and should we do it? And when we take it away from, because remember, when you take anything away from some place, another place is being deprived of it. And I think that this forum, I don't know about the other ladies, all these wonderful people who are working around the world, all these countries must be having water issues as well. That how have they tackled this problem? The awareness for any change in any society, I think, comes through women. And I think that if we want decisions, whether they are laws, whether they are organizations, whether they are stakeholder meetings, this access to water in a fair manner must be raised. We all talk about access to water, but access to water should be fairly done and honestly done.
So you would put the matter of justice and equity in the center,
Yes.
and you feel that women have a greater sort of an empathy,
Yes.
that they will be able to bring this forward.
Yes.
That's a very, very interesting point, that despite being the ones who are also equal stakeholders or equal end users, women, once they pin their, the entire functioning on fairness and justice, can make that difference. Maybe if they can, raise their voice, then those unfair structures can be dismantled, which are depriving others of the same resource that they need.
And
So,
legislation and all, because legislation is very weak and it's very gray. There are many gray areas in legislation. In the water legislation, the Water Commission came forward, everything was done, but nobody speaks about accessing water in an equitable and fair manner. And for me, I think that is important, that our lifestyles, we're talking about climate change, everybody's talking about people changing the way we live, the way we think, the way we use our resources. And some of those changes are being, by default imposed upon us because of climate, because of the shortage of resources. And I think that water is a resource that women also need to consider fairly. The clothes we wear, the food we eat, how we cook it, how much we cook it. I mean, as you do know that we have a great, shortage of gas in Karachi. And I always wonder is that, do we really need to change the kind of foods that we eat, because which do not require such long cooking time? So even when we are using water, the clothes, our lifestyle, the products that we use, the beauty products that we are using, so many things that we are using, liquid comes in a form, and liquid is water. So when I am using so much of it, is my other person using it? Is the lady in defense or the lady in PCHS or KDA having the same usage like, say, somebody living in Mahmudabad or in Nazmabad or any of our, the city has gone over 3,500 square miles. Yeah. So are we using it fairly? We need to create empathy in the women itself first.
That's very important. And the people in this webinar that we are a part of, They inhabit an area where the quarter of world's humanity lives. So the pressure on this resource is so much that unless it is the question of justice and fair play is embedded into its conversation, I don't think that we will find many solutions that will work for a very long time. So thank you for making that point. And Mumtaz, how in the work that Aurat Foundation does, can we...
Afia, we'll need to move to the Q&A because we're at 4:45 because we need to end in 15 minutes.
So anything that Mumtaz and Faria may need to add to what Amber has said, because I think that the point of justice is very, very important. So I'll open it to the other participants of the webinar if they have any particular question with a panelist, or even if it is a general question, if they would like to just pose, I think they should raise their hand. We have some. The admin will have to unmute.
Hello.
Yes.
Can you hear
Yes,
me?
please go ahead. Yes, we can.
I am Priyanti from the Girl Guide Association. Thank you, Kusum, for sending me the link. Can you hear?
Yes, we can hear you. Please go ahead.
Yeah. And I have been working with water and sanitation with UNICEF first in 1983, coming from Indonesia after 2 years, working as a UN volunteer. Then in 1996, International Water Aid, we were able to work with International Water Aid. Still, we are working with them. And local partners are Jalani. And I am working with the Girl Guides. We are spreading the message, how to save water, water security, because Girl Guides are girls who will take the message to their parents and to the school. Because we are always now in coming future in June, we are having another program. We are spreading this message, how to save water and how to work with water. So we are happy. Sri Lanka have been working, the Girl Guides have been working with International Water Aid and Jalani, the local water partner. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Is there a question for our panelists, and will they please, do we have any other hands on? I can't see any other.
I just want to find out whether Pakistan have started spreading the message of water security with the Girl Guides.
Is there anybody in the panel that you'd like to answer, or anybody? Amber, go ahead.
I don't think that we are really doing much in Girl Guides anymore. In school, I remember many years ago we were Girl Guides, but as a organization, as a platform, the Girl Guides and Boy Scouts is very limited to few schools. And
because I came to Pakistan for the Girl Child program with UNICEF, and I visited some of the Girl Guide units. I think there are few.
There are few. There is a whole chain of some schools which still have Girl Guides.
Yes.
There are others also. There are other youth groups which, different organizations have their youth wings, and the whole idea of, how Hisaar has brought in. And now we are looking at people of Faria and younger than her also to take this message forward. So that's all about connections. But you're right, we do not have that kind of an organized Girl Guides.
You can start. Example from Sri Lanka.
We can, absolutely.
Taking message to the Girl Guides in Pakistan.
We will. Definitely a great example. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anybody else who has their hand?
There's a question in the chat box. It says, providing platforms and ensuring women's representation, what needs to be done on a priority basis? I guess this would be directed towards Mumtaz.
Yes, thank you very much. I think this is, I already mentioned, we should focus on the local government. We should raise the voices to bring women in decision-making level, and we should bring the more women at local government level, because the local government is directly linked to our local communities, local areas, local women. So as well as local government level, secondly, we should also raise the voices, and we bring more women and such like women like Aifia, you and Simi in Pakistan to sensitize the policymakers about the water issues, about the climate change challenges in Pakistan. They can provide the technical advice to the policymakers. We should also work to establish the women caucuses. We have the women caucuses, but specifically women caucuses for the climate impact in Pakistan, and we should we should work on the SDG indicators, and we can sensitize how Pakistan can achieve and can address these emergency challenges with regards to flood and the impact of the women, especially when they, because of the water issues, they face the domestic violence, they face the economy challenges at home level. So I think we can do as well as we can sensitize the community, create awareness at community level, school level. The other side, we can provide the technical support to the parliamentarians, and we believe this is we as a group we need to create the political will at political leadership with regards they can focus on this issue because the effort of the civil society organization, now they are going to make some initiative to bring the national level policy, and they are going to form the provincial policies, but unfortunately the women are missing in this. They did not engage the women, so we should continue our struggle more and more to engage policymakers. Women are the key stakeholder. They can consult with the women. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, absolutely. The consultative process needs to be more robust, and women need to have a greater say in them. You're absolutely right. And that requires, to push the political will for decision making. I know that we are running short on time. Do we take more questions? Sana, your call.
I think one more question, because we have to hand it over to Simi for closing remarks at 4:55. So we have
That's
2
right.
minutes.
So, and any other questions which remain, then they can be put in the chat, and maybe the panelist who's identified can answer them on email. Can we do that as well?
Yeah, sure, we can do that. We can do that for sure.
Okay, please go ahead now. Who do we take? We only have one question left.
Can see
you're
Alice's
muted.
hand up. I can see Alice's hand
Yeah,
up.
Alice's hand is up. Yeah.
Alice? Alice, can you hear us?
Yes, now I am.
Yes,
Yes, I
yes.
had some troubles because I'm looking at you through my phone because but it's a bit difficult. Well, actually, I first want to congratulate all of you with all of this, and thank Kusum for inviting me, because a lot of the issues, the reason why we did the Women for Water Partnership in the past, are still out there. On the other hand, there's a lot of advancement. Now, I have many remarks. I will put them in the chat, but my basic question is, how do you continue from here? Because there's so much possibilities and needs in Pakistan, and how to make sure that bottom-up and top-down meets, because I've heard about political will, I've heard about the local level and about initiatives, about the non-understanding, I think, of many of the local policymakers or the people in the government that do things according to themselves, they will do things very much right, I guess, because they do business as usual. And it's not that they are ill-intended or don't want to do things, but they do it in a certain way. So how can we as women ensure that we are going to do things right instead of only concentrating on the right thing to do? And there we need the multidisciplinarity of the different women's groups that I see gathered here today. And yeah, well, it is a question. I'm not going to say the answer because there's not one answer. It also depends very much on culture and on how your country is equipped. So my key issue is bottom up needs to be top down. That's a hell of a job, if I may say it unparliamentarily, but that is something we have to focus on if we really want to make the change. And the answer is then in forcing the governments to do SDG 17 rather than going into implementation straight away. And I see a lot of very good entities here in the women that can help making that change. Thank you so much for being part of this. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And that actually brings, your questions are actually bringing into focus the problems that have been identified. And
Yes,
the way forward, of course, is through collaboration and to make sure that people know that they have to do it differently. Yeah. Thank you. Simi, should I stop here? Because I know that now you need to have the closing remarks.
Yes.
And address the question that we have in the chat later on. Is that possible? Sana?
Yes. So, yes, sure. So,
I'll hand it
Kusum
over
has
to
actually
you.
just
Thank you very much.
Kus-
Sorry, I just like to thank my panelists and
Yeah.
everybody else who participated in this discussion. Thank you. And more with the way I'm speaking.
Thank you, Afia. Thank you a lot. Thanks a lot. So Kusum has just raised a question whether a message from this webinar will be going to political decision makers in Pakistan. So I think we can probably do that through our media roundtable, the network and connections that we have made. And also, of course, through Mumtaz Mughal and Aurat Foundation's position in that. So with that, I would like to invite Simi once more to conclude this discussion and close the webinar. Simi, over to you.
Thank you very much. That was so very interesting. So we can see that the situation of women and water in Pakistan is so intertwined with patriarchy, with economic, political, and social imperatives, and we must never lose sight of that. It's very hard to work in a vacuum, and we have to understand these trends in order to make the right interventions, doing not just the right thing, but doing them right, as Alice said. So we heard from Afia about how powerful media can be if we want to really make it work for women. I mean, she has been a single person army going at it for so many years. So, we have a media roundtable now, and for years, some of us have worked with media. So we can make it powerful for women. And then through that, we can confront so many of these unchecked developments and that Amber spoke about. It's happening all over Pakistan. All our food producing areas are being converted into real estate for the rich, okay? And then there's so little for the poor. So how do we can use the media, and we must learn to use the media as others are doing to really confront this. And then, of course, Afia also spoke of domestic violence and its relationship with the access to and right to water, and how the power relations within the home play out in terms of women having to face violence. And that goes all the way up to the highest political levels. And with Amber, we also heard of this parallel economy of water, where you have a designated government organization, and then you have this entire parallel way of how the tanker system works. And also she pointed out that equity and fairness needs to be at the center of water discourse, of water use, and of engaging with politicians and parliamentarians. So this is very hard because they are in their comfort zones and they don't want to be disturbed. I agree with a comment that was just made that by Alice, that it's not always that they are out to destroy. Sometimes the intentions may be good, but the results may be terrible because they aren't thinking through things properly. Mumtaz, of course, talked about the power and value of women's organization and how they can engage across the board from grassroots to the top. And, we heard about the arrogance of the male engineers and the male policy makers who can so easily discard women's voices. And it is accepted by his peers. That is what is pretty frightening. And from our younger colleague, Faria, we can see in her the young women on the rise. They're technically strong. And, they can speak, they can make their way. And whereas she very, very honestly spoke about how all these efforts at dialogues and getting people's voices on board could be just pushed aside and have been pushed aside so easily. The fact that she can speak of it, I think is really wonderful. And this is what I have also seen in the way the young women in the women's movement are acting today. They're not like us oldie goldies who are afraid to say things, and we try to say them in a way not to offend anybody. They speak out. The Aurat March, for example, which will be happening in the next few days in all the big cities, the young women there carry placards with pictures saying, why can't we sit with our legs apart on a scooter? Why do we have to sit with two legs on one side? Why do we have to cook for our brothers and iron their clothes and make their beds? We wouldn't say it like, but they say it in that way. And I say really hats off to them. Now, Mumtaz talked about the different categories of action. The short term, I think this is where we have a lack of political will, but of course, active local government is the answer if we want all those short-term action. And we work with policies and with nature-based solutions and perhaps others in the medium term. But long term, there is nothing in the place of institutionalization. Whether they are universities, whether they are policies, whether they are strategies, we have got to move towards that. And last but not least, I heard the word fear, okay? And I think there is real fear of women in our society. And we must accept that that means that we are powerful. We just haven't realized it. If somebody fears you or they are afraid of you, you are powerful. And this is the connection we don't make. So we must point this out. Why are people afraid of us? Because we will say what is real and we will say what is true. This destroys the political narratives. It moves people from their comfort zones. It challenges the inequalities on which all our systems exist. So therefore, we must keep at it. Let them be afraid of us. This is how we will be able to speak. And now my last point is that for years we have been talking about engendering the water sector, engendering climate change, engendering environment. No, let's get away from it. We should do exactly the opposite. We should take the issues of environment, climate change, water, food security to the women's organizations, to the women's movement, and to the protest groups. So when we are out on the streets, we should be talking about these issues. And just recently, for Aurat Foundation, I prepared a little booklet for them, explaining what climate change means to the women's movement. Because frankly, they don't know. It's all so jargonized. We need to get out of the jargon. And so that's my message. If we want to have a message, we need to take our issues to the women's movement and take strength from the women's movement and give them our strength. I'm part of many women's movements globally and in Pakistan. And I don't think I could have done the work that I've done in water without being engaged with these women's groups. So at that note, I would like to thank all of you for being here. And although I was not supposed to conclude, I really enjoyed doing it. Thank you. So back to you, Sana. Sana? You are muted, Sana. We can't hear you.
No, I couldn't find the window. Thank you so much. Thank you to, again, all our partners and all our panelists, Simi, Afia, Ambar Ali Bhai, Faria, Mumtaz, and our partners, GWP South Asia Rainwater Network. Which one? Sorry. Women for Water Partnership, of course. Thank you to all our participants for joining us in this webinar on building women's leadership in the water sector of Pakistan. As we mentioned, this is just one of the series of events that we are holding under the umbrella of Women for Water Partnership. And we will be holding many more. And now that we have this network of very strong women and very great inspiring organizations all across South Asia, I'm hoping that we will have many such events in the future. And again, just to reiterate that this was to commemorate International Women's Day on 8th March and World Water Day on 22nd March. And thank you to all of you for being a part of this discussion. I think it's been extremely enlightening and insightful, and it has given us all a lot to think about. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Hisaar.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Goodbye. Lovely
Thank
to
you,
meet you all.
Thank you very much,
Bye.
Afia ji. Thank you. Thank
Bye-bye.
you, Evasimi. Thank you, Sana. Thank you.
Bye, Kusum. Thank you.
Bye.